Arsenal turn their attentions again towards another striker. According to reports in the Telegraph this morning, Joshua Zirkzee, a very exciting, young, strong centre forward who's really started to find these goal-scoring self. Fabrizio also updates on the Arsenal striker pursuit with talks of Osimhen and Tony. Updates there. We're also looking at Chelsea and them looking at Evan Ferguson of Brighton as a long-standing target, and Tottenham Hotspur, they have signed Dragusin, they have signed Timo Werner. They are now going to put their attention into Conor Gallagher. Plus, we've got an update on Manchester United looking at another Ajax player. Is that the right thing to do? Hit the like and the share button. It's the Done Deal Show. Let's go. Arsenal's need for a striker almost feels like the intensity surrounding these stories increases every day. We're on the 12th of January, no signings made, 1 win in 7, and Arsenal fans want a reaction. This story has appeared today in the Telegraph, and the reports are that Zirkzee is valued at £50 million with 8 goals and 4 assists to his name so far this season, playing for Bologna in Italy. It says Arsenal are admirers of the striker, but no attempts to sign him in January will be difficult. And we know this. It's a seller's market, which means buying anybody in January can prove to be a difficult task, especially a player who's in good form, especially when a top team in the title race comes knocking. Can we buy a player? No, unless you want to pay us an exorbitant amount of money, and at times maybe even above the market value of that individual. And as I've said all along, look, they've been linked to some players that we're familiar with this January. Tony, Osimhen, we'll talk about them in a minute. Now they've been linked to names that maybe not on the tips of people's tongues. I'll tell you what does, though, spring to mind when it comes to a player like Joshua Zirkzee. Now, he isn't a player that I'm overly familiar with. And I never lie to the Football Terrace community about my understanding of a particular player. If I've never really seen them play, I won't pretend that I have. Never done it, never will. What I've read about this individual is that he's talented, he's technical, and there's a relatively high ceiling with him. And I think what's really interesting for me is that on a number of our shows recently, Straight Facts, Top 6, Match Reactions, there's been this sort of feeling that there's no real quality strikers available in the world. I think that should be rephrased to, I don't know of any other top quality strikers in the world outside the popular names in the Prem and other European leagues. If there hasn't been a buzz about them, and I'll give you an example. It's not a striker, but I'll give you an example. Who the hell was talking about Vicario a year ago? Who was putting him in conversations with some of the best young up-and-coming goalkeepers in the world? No one in England, no one in the social media space, because we're fans. None of us that work in this space, me, you, anybody, is an encyclopedia that has a deep understanding of every level of every league across Europe. We just don't. The only guy, Strasbourg Steve, who watches the show, that guy's an anorak. And I mean that nicely. He has about 15 screens in his bedroom and he watches everything. I don't think anybody else is doing that. So I look at a shining like Joshua Zirkzee and think, I don't know enough about him to say good, bad, or indifferent. What I've read is very positive. And maybe a signing like this is what Arsenal need. It comes in, less pressure, slightly under the radar, nobody expecting crazy things. Maybe that helps. And this is, I'm playing devil's advocate here. Maybe signing Ivan Toney under $1 million, the pressure that's upon that deal for everybody doesn't work out. Give me your thoughts and feelings in the comment section below. Fabrizio's also updated us all surrounding Arsenal's situation as well. He spoke here about Arsenal and strikers. He said Victor Osimhen is not on the market and many others are not available on the market. Ivan Toney is a player they appreciate. This is true. And for what I'm hearing, Toney would be keen to move to Arsenal, but at the moment, the financial package is way too expensive. And I also think Arsenal need to look beyond this. Maybe someone like a Zirkzee is a good idea. because that still leaves the door open to an Ivan Toney or an Osimhen in the summer, with the potential of Gabriel Jesus being used in different positions on the left and on the right, with the view to then sell on Eddie Nketiah. You could then have a situation where you've got Zirkzee and you've got Ivan Toney. By the way, both can play as support strikers, both can play as number 9s. That could be an interesting combination. I want to understand what you think, Arsenal fans. Would this be enough for you in January? Would you get behind it and support it? Let me know. Now, I want to stay in North London for the next story, because this is such an interesting one for me. And I read this morning on the Standard. I was reading the Standard, and it said here, after bringing in Timo Werner and Dragusin, Tottenham will now turn their focus to a central midfielder. That's according to journalist Ben Jacobs, with a claim that Chelsea would accept an overall package of around £55 million for their captain this season. Reece James is out. This is their captain. Spurs have not opened talks yet, with Gallagher still keen to stay at Stamford Bridge. But that can change. That can change. When you know your club wants to sell you, you are always open to leaving. Conor Gallagher is not going to publicly state he's happy to leave, because then if he stays, he's got to face the Chelsea fans when he said, I don't really want to be here. So he's going to say up until the 11th hour, he is going to stay. I want to be a Chelsea player. And there's probably a part of him that does. He's Chelsea through and through. He came through the academy. He's a Cobham boy. I get it. There's too much smoke with this story without there being some fire. £55 million. Is this balance in the books? Is this even the right move? I don't think technically Gallagher is anywhere near Enzo, Caicedo, Lavia. I don't think he is. But he has been better than them all this year. Whether Chelsea fans like hearing that or not, he has. I want to get your thoughts on this move. And Spurs fans, Conor Gallagher, Timo Werner, Dragusin. Let's say you sign all those 3, 2 are done. How do you rate that window out of 10? I want to see some scores below. Rivals, how do you rate that window out of 10? And why are Spurs the only top 6 team really doing anything right now? The only one looking to improve. Is it FFP? Is it value in the market? A team's actually quite happy with what they've got. I want to get your views and your opinions on that, people. Now, moving up to Manchester, it does involve Arsenal as well, but the story that I've read is far more surrounding Manchester United than it is Arsenal. And it says that United and Arsenal are monitoring the Ajax striker Brian Brobbey ahead of a possible January move. It says, according to the Mirror, Erik ten Hag is keen having, and you'll never guess what, previously worked with the striker at Ajax. I love how they work that. However, United's ongoing financial struggles mean a permanent deal is unlikely this month, so could hand Arsenal the advantage should they firm up their interest. He's got 12 goals in 24 games this season, which isn't bad. I'll be honest with you. I'm jaded. From a Man United perspective, I'm very, very jaded with the idea of us signing Ajax players. I'm not going to lie, I am. It could work. Listen, Lisandro Martinez, I think, has been a good signing. He's just had these... I don't even blame Lisandro. He had a freak injury to his foot at the end of the last season. And then the medical team didn't pick up on the fact they hadn't helped it heal properly before they let him play again. He isn't to know that himself, is he? He's not got x-ray vision. That's on the club. He's been decent. And we haven't signed many players from Ajax. So obviously signed Anthony that's flopped. I wanted Kudus in the summer, and he's done pretty well so far. But I ain't convinced. I'm not convinced I want to be. And I don't know whether it's with the player, the situation, the combination. I don't know. But Man United fans, I'd love to understand your take on this deal. I'd love to understand your view. Would this be a good bit of business for Man United or Arsenal? Because they are in the story. So I'm not going to ignore them. I do still think this is more a Man United story based on people that are sharing it and talking about it. But it could still be Arsenal. Man United fans, I want your opinions. Brian Brobbey. Do you want him as a Man United player? Let me know in the comment sections below. Now, back to Chelsea. This story here is never going to be a January signing, in my opinion. But Nizaar Kinsella, who's a very, very credible Chelsea source, has told us here, and I want to read this out to you, that Chelsea are long-standing admirers of the Brighton teenager, Evan Ferguson. Brighton will resist the move for the 19-year-old who has just signed a new contract and could cost more than £100 million. The Seagulls are under no pressure to sell and do not want to lose another jewel to Chelsea, who has managed to persuade, but they obviously managed to persuade to pay £115 million for Caicedo. We know he's talented. We know a lot of clubs are looking at him. I'm going to say this now. I think Chelsea have got to avoid this like the plague. Got to avoid it. Not because he isn't talented, not because he won't go on to potentially be a star. They need no more kids. It's already a nursery. It is already a daycare center. They need experienced 23. Like, you can get some players that are 21, 22 that are very experienced. But they need somebody that is 24, 25, 26, played 200, 250, maybe even 300 games, full international. They can Champions League experience, whatever it may be. They need experience, Chelsea. This is an excellent player, and signing him isn't a bad thing per se. But again, just like Man United, I said that scenario makes me worried about the Brobbery deal. Chelsea scenario would make me worried. I'm not worried for Chelsea per se. I'm a Man United fan. But Chelsea fans, I think you should be worried about signing another 19-year-old that is raw, that needs developing and needs nurturing, when there are no real elder statesmen in your team to help him. I want to know what you think, Chelsea fans. This just feels like another player that may not reach his full potential with you, who will not help balance this squad out, that will not help you progress. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe you think he's such a talent. He's the next Harry Kane. We cannot afford to lose out on him. And you may decide not to get him because he is so young. And then in 3 years' time, you're watching him kill it for Spurs or kill it for Arsenal or kill it for City. And you're thinking, oh, my God, we could have had him. But you can't forget where you were at this time. We've got a habit of doing that as football fans. I actually see Arsenal fans at the moment saying that life before Arteta wasn't that bad. It is an absolute madness, the rewriting of history we do at times. And I don't think Chelsea fans should be suckered into that. But give me your thoughts, give me your feelings on these stories today. Smash the like button for the Football Terrace, and I'll see you all again very, very soon.